Hey guys, Dov here, coming at you with another underrated unit for Total War Warhammer 2. This time, the Wailing Wenches of the Deep, Syreens of the Vampire Coast, up against, High Elves this time. This is a kind of a build style that I've been experimenting with, I've played in the past, and works decently well from what I've found. So the idea here is we're going to use the Syreens' speed, their 48 speed is decent, try and support hounds and bats in a mobile engagement, win mobility decisively, and then use those to, attack enemy skirmishers and ensure that my Necrofex stays safe. Also got triple crab heroes. Yeah, Admiral there, and double gunny, obviously. And, Syreens, what do they offer? Obviously, being ethereal, they have high physical resistance, no armor whatsoever, and low HP, but relying entirely on that 75% physical resistance. They do have Strider as well. This little melee attack debuff, that charmed debuff, -9 melee attack is one of their better traits. You can use them to debuff enemies. They also do pretty good armor piercing damage. Don't have the best stats in the world, but especially supporting a mobile engagement. Like over here, we're going to use the hounds and the bats to break those silver helms. It doesn't look like they actually got the charge bonus regardless, and then follow up with the armor piercing and melee attack debuff. Same thing over here, going directly after Styx mobility. This time, though, with the Shadow Warriors here supporting, which, by the way, these guys look great in the Calidor color scheme. Oh, man, that looks really good. They're going to do pretty well, all things considered. The Hounds charge in here, but Shadow Warriors, obviously no pushovers. They're going to take a little bit more damage than is comfortable here, but they've already dished out quite a bit of damage in return. Meanwhile, on the front line, Rangers are making their way in, have taken some damage from pistol zombies and, gun crabs and so on. Just going to be kind of breaking up their advance as much as possible. Over here, though, Fire Mage comes to try and support with that Flaming Sword of Ruin on those silver helms. It's not going to be enough at the end of the day. And, I mean, granted, there's 2,000 points, but I've committed a lot more resources than that into trying to take out these two silver helms, so is that actually worth it at the end of the day? Maybe it's worth it for the silver helms to be distracting me, actually. But as it is right now, the Rangers are actually struggling to get in and get the anti-infantry work done. I've been able to kind of continuously disrupt, and likewise, Imric has not been able to get in and get his work done, which is absolutely massive, obviously. He's a relatively expensive character. Definitely wants to be fighting in melee, but with no healing on the field here, I've been focusing him with all of my gun crabs, and he is out of there. Unfortunate day for Imric. Mage will try and stabilize here. We've got a little bit of a burning head, but things are not looking great off the bat for the High Elves. You can see most of my mobile force over here got broken up, but these Syreens are still hanging around, of course, as they are ethereal. They are very, very tough to take out, and still just bogging down these silver helms over here, man. Story of the ages, but anyway. The Necrofex can continue to fire on the archers up on the high ground. Talons of Torquilada, pretty decent here to try and get some fire synergy. Vampire Coast don't really have any units that are innately weak to fire, unlike the Vampire Counts, a common misconception. But, I mean, the fire synergy in general is just very strong. Definitely see what he was going for there with the Imric, with the cascading fire cloak and everything. Fortunately, the gun crabs had some other ideas. Pistol summons also, just gatting down these Rangers here. Archers have established a little bit of a high ground position here, continuing to fire those Shadow Warriors and the Archers and so on, but once this mobile engagement is finally cleaned up, I can then roll these units back around and start to challenge the mobile engagement. I mean, balance power is pretty far in favor for me anyway at this point. The Necrofex Colossus, mostly unchallenged, can continue to get ammo fed to it by these two gunnery wights. I'm really not at risk of running out of ammo anytime soon. Can continue to just pound away at a distance. And these silver helms here get terrified away. Let's see, only 25 attack with that debuff on them and without their martial prowess. So that -9 melee attack, especially against a higher stat faction like High Elves and Dark Elves, definitely. Very good against them. I would say Chaos as well for the melee attack debuff and the armor piercing damage. Probably Greenskins also would be good against them for all of the same reasons. And Terror as well, obviously. Cheap Terror, quite nice. And yeah, you do have to be careful though. Obviously they're very, very squishy to magic damage, as we'll see in just a moment. But all the Terror routes proccing at this point, and the High Elves are going to give up the fight as the rest of the mobile squad rolls home. So yeah, Syreens, the mobile Terror kind of support. ended up working out very well this time. And even though, I mean, it was kind of an overspend in taking out those silver helms, at the very least I was able to keep them tied down and, you know, prevent them from coming in charging my zombies up too much. Just in general, this is kind of an off-center, I would say, Vampire Coast build, in that you don't really have, you know, a lot of really strong shooting. It's a lot of mobile units mostly, and trying to play off of that Dance Macabre. Then you have the 3 gun crab heroes, kind of take out single entities or whatever else they need to. Yeah, let's go ahead and see. I've got one more replay to show you for Syreens, so yeah, let's get to that. This time, we're lined up against the Empire, and yeah, I have a problem. The problem's name is Volkmar, and Volkmar hard counters ethereal units in many ways. This is kind of one of the dangers, is that a lot of factions have counters for Syreens. It's mostly about playing and trying to avoid getting hit by those counters, whether that's a spell, a particular character, or whatever else, certain types of units. Pretty much every single matchup, your opponent can have tools to deal with the Syreens. We saw in the last battle how not having enough tools, like just the Flaming Sword of Ruin, sometimes in and of itself it doesn't quite cut it. But Volkmar is an absolute powerhouse in that he has Banishment, he has Soulfire, he himself does magic damage and has a good charge bonus, so see how that goes. Right now, Necrofex just kind of plinking away at these Empire Knights. We've got 4 of them, a whole bunch of Huntsmen here, and Swordsmen and Spearmen in the front line. Volkmar, obviously. Amber Wizard, summon Manticores. Great for disruption against Vampire Coast. And yeah, because of this heavy emphasis on mobility, oh, of course, some Pistoliers as well. How could I forget? The heavy emphasis on mobility from the Empire part here, from Red Legion's part, means that the Empire Knights, it's going to be tough for me to win a decisive mobility engagement against them, because the Hounds will just fall over pretty quickly. So I'm going to go ahead and try and force a bit of a hit and run here. I'm going to charge in and see if I can bait out some units. And yeah, they actually do some pretty good damage on the charge there. The Hounds do, especially when they're juiced up with that melee attack buff. But you can see the Empire Knights are countercharging in here. I kind of just stayed my welcome a little bit too long there, honestly. And yeah, unfortunately end up taking quite a bit of damage. The Syreens also aren't quite as fast, obviously. They're like half the speed, really, of the Hounds, so not super efficient there, and I end up losing some bats basically for nothing, so not the best. But the Syreens are still alive at the very least. I can try and pull them back, recover them a little bit, you know, heal them up. Gonna do just that now. And all the while, the Necrofex is free to fire here, and again, I have not quite infinite ammo, but basically all the ammo I could ever want with these 2 gunnery whites. So we'll continue to plink and pound, and yeah, swing and a miss there. I don't know what that shot was going for, guys, but as it is right now, Red Legion in chat, I seem to recall you saying something like, "What do I even do? Like, how do I approach this?" Which is definitely a valid way of thinking about it, and he's just going to kind of press forward and attack whatever targets present themselves that are most expensive, which is the right thing to do with the Huntsman, definitely. There's a lot of different things you could shoot at that are going to be valuable, but let's see how I respond with my mobility here. Again, I have healed up the Syreens and these Hounds pretty well, actually, and we did manage to stabilize those Fellbats also, so I'm pretty happy about that. I do need to be careful of Volkmar. We're going to go ahead and hit a quick charge in this front line to try and break some of these units, maybe bust back into this second line and get at some of these ranged units. Hopefully, I should be like collapsing right now with this other mobile force as well, but a little bit late there. Gun Crabs are focusing on Volkmar, trying to do their best. He does have pretty heavy missile resistance. I guess not that heavy of missile resistance, but here it comes, the Banishment. Oh man, right on the Syreens as Volkmar rolls through as well. Oh man, and here comes the Soulfire. Let's be honest, did you really think I would make a video about undead without this happening? To, you know, whatever undead unit we were focusing on? I mean, come on guys, do you even know me? And just like that, that's how you delete a Syreen in seconds. Basically full health to gone immediately, and you can see, again, a little bit late responding with this flank force here. We are going to be able to come in and break a few of these Empire infantry apart, but I've already taken a lot of damage on this side of my formation here. A little bit more than I'm comfortable with. The zombies dying in absolute droves, and likewise the Admiral here is taking a lot of crossfire from all of these Huntsmen. Now she's kind of the main one. She does have Opal Amulet to try and give her some damage resistance, but it's really not going to be enough. I'm trying to push back and get into this Empire second line here. go ahead and throw a Dance Macabre on there to try and get the hounds juiced up. And you can see we're getting terror routes, but I can't really follow up very well. And a very nice Flock of Doom also, again, provides that little bit of magic damage. Here comes the Manticore summon as well. Just trying to clean up as many of these Huntsmen as I can, because really, like, if I can protect my Necrofex, he should be able to carry the game. But I also haven't been super efficient with my Necrofex. It's got 160 kills. I mean, that's pretty efficient, but I haven't been, like, focusing one target after the other. You can see how he's kind of coming forward, still has, you know, targeting on random things over there and whatever. But now firing into the Knights point blank as the Syreens kind of try and hold them here. Maybe. Doesn't look like he's actually firing. And the Admiral is able to pull back, get an invocation on herself, try and get back in the fight here, and again, peeling this mobile squad out to try and support engagements, not get too caught out, but the Empire Knights are definitely thriving. One unit especially being so healthy is a big problem for me. And now the Huntsmen have found their new target. Necrofex only has 75 armor. It honestly will not hold up to those Huntsmen, so I need to pull him out of range desperately, try and get him a heal if I can. But like Volkmar and these other troops are coming through. We've got the Manticore also attacking as well, so it's just a rough situation for me. Looks like I'm actually going to stand and fire with that Necrofex. Oh, and here comes another Soul Fire. Looks like the Syreens are mostly able to avoid that, but even still, they're taking a lot of charge damage from Volkmar there. And the balance power really not looking great for me at this point as Volkmar starts to roll up the last of my army. We start to get some disintegration. Yeah, Necrofex is gone. And that'll be a wrap. Oop. Sorry about that. Yeah. So that's it. Basically, Syreens got banished into the Netherrealm, where they belong by Volkmar. Gun Crab heroes making their last stand. And honestly, in chatting with Red Legion after the game, and we played a couple of other games too, kind of utilizing a similar... I was utilizing similar Vampire Coast builds. From what I've found, the bats aren't really... I mean, I might take like one unit of bats just to break charges so that the hounds don't get charged in certain situations, but like here... And other situations as well, I think it'd be better to just go wider on ground troops, like maybe take a couple pistol mobs. That way you have some kind of counter skirmish ability, and yeah, just some kind of ranged DPS kind of poke and prod. I don't know, kind of have to play around with it and see. But 165 kills for the Colossus, not too bad. The Syreens, yeah, not able to do what they needed to here. Kind of talking about them in general. One thing about the High Elf I didn't mention after that game, but in the High Elf matchup specifically, in that game, oh, where am I going with this? The Silver Helms, actually, I think if you traded them out with the War Lions, right, the unit of Lions. Now, an interesting thing about Hounds, Syreens too, and this is something I talked about in a recent video, that was maybe a few weeks ago now, where I talked about, I think it was my Bob Against Undead video, that's right. I talked about how Squig Hoppers, because they're immune to psychology and have anti-infantry, are kind of like a soft counter for Syreens. They don't have magic damage, but, you know, again, they can get the work done. And I would say War Lions are in a very similar boat, honestly, and at a similar cost. They have anti-infantry, which again, Hounds and Syreens both count as infantry-sized targets, and because of that high weapon damage, they'll be able to still deal a lot, right? They can still punch hard against the Syreens because they have a high base weapon damage. 40 charge bonus as well, they have good splash attacks. They are relatively squishy in terms of their total health pool, only 18 models, but if you use them appropriately, like unfortunately I didn't save the replay. If I can get it from Red Legion, I'll show you guys another time. But yeah, he literally took a similar build, not completely the same as to what Styx took there, but the War Lions were the main thing that I wanted to kind of highlight as a good counter to Syreens and to Dogs, so to help kind of counter that wide mobile force. But in general, I would say in a lot of matchups, especially against like if your opponent's going to have squishier mobility or no mobility at all, oftentimes people will forget, I've done this before, forget about Syreens' existence and just not bring the right counters for them. So I would honestly say like 1 to 2 Syreens is probably a good idea in just about every single Empire Coast build. I really can't think of, even against factions with heavy magic damage, try and avoid taking the magic damage to the face, really, if you can, but... yeah, Syreens, Spooky Ladies of the Night, pretty decent overall, I would say. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this one. If you do like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification button, so every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next time.